Hey guys, welcome back to Just Being a Mom podcast. And today is the part 2 of last week's episode, vaginal birth versus cesarean birth. No, versus cesarean section. versus C-section. So last week, if you haven't watched last week's episode, it's in the description below. So go like it and go like it and go watch it. But before we get started, while you're watching the last week's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Let's get started. Last week we talked all about the pros and the cons of vaginal birth and the pros and cons of cesarean, and I wanted to let you guys kind of know where I was at, what decision I was making. Last week was more so about you, helping you make your decisions and what is best for your family. So this week I'm going to tell you guys like where I'm leaning, but like I said last week, God is going to take me what path he wants. Like I said, I could plan a C-section and he could be like, okay, you're gonna have the baby before the C-section and it's gonna be a vaginal birth. Or I could say I'm gonna have a vaginal birth and then the same thing happen all over again as my first birth with Elijah. So we shall see. It's all up in the air. But like I said last week, it's important to have a plan. So I do kind of have a plan. So let me start from the beginning. So my midwife has a segment on her Facebook called Midwife Mondays, where she brings on different moms and talks about different topics to help new moms, to help pregnant moms. And so I'll put a link below so you can watch her latest one. But I was on an episode a long time ago, I think it's 2 years ago. And yeah, it was 2 years ago because Elijah's 2.5. So I was on an episode and she asked me, would I do it all over again? Because the episode was about things not going as planned, and my birth did not go as planned. Like I said, I had to be transferred to the hospital, stay in labor there for 24 hours, and then eventually, have to have a C-section. So yeah, that was so fun. And so she asked me if I would do it all over again. And without question, I was like, yes, of course. I loved being with you. I loved the care that I was provided. I loved being in the water. I loved everything up until the time that you said I had to go to the hospital. That's when it got, that's when it went left, okay? But obviously it was for my health and for the baby's health. So I did have to be transported to the hospital. But every time I tell the story, my birth story, I would think wow, that was really traumatic. Do I want to do that again? I labored at home for almost 24 hours. Then I went to the birth center, labored for maybe about 4 or 5 hours. Nothing happened. Then I was transferred to the hospital, labored there for another 12 hours. And then it was just so traumatic. Everything was just pushed and rushed and just going through all this and going through the pain and, the not knowing the everything, just having to be okay, now we have to cut you open because your baby's not coming. And you're I have an epidural, I'm already drugged up, I'm already out of it. It was a lot, okay? It was just a lot, okay? And I was not prepared. So, but every time I told the story, I was just wow, do I really want to go that route again? So for many reasons, which I will explain to you, I am leaning heavily towards having a C-section again. Don't tell my midwife. Okay, so there's a few different reasons. So one of my main reasons for wanting to have another C-section is I had diastasis recti, which is a separation when the baby, it's a separation of your abdomen when your belly grows, your abs separate. They usually come back together. Mine did not, so I have a gap, and you can like put your finger all the way in there, touch my intestines. It's disgusting. So I went to physical therapy, got it down from a 3-finger gap to a 1-finger gap, which was amazing. But I can never eventually get it to close. I do believe that can only happen with surgery, but you do want to wait until it's your last baby. I ain't having no more kids. Okay, I'm done. My doctor can fix my abdomen and just go ahead and do the C-section. So it's literally one less surgery that I have to have. Because I was going to get the surgery anyway, because it's like, sometimes it's painful. Like I can't like sit up, and like I can't like turn around, or I like risk like opening it back up again. And I'm like doing all this work, and like you can never stop working on it or it'll just like open right back up. So you can get ulcers. It's like not a good thing to have. So so that was one of my main reasons, was just to get the C-section and she could fix my abdomen. Another reason is financially. Unfortunately, we cannot afford to go back to my midwife. She's not even that expensive, but we couldn't afford it this time. Just because last time we had to pay for the midwife and the hospital, and it was just so expensive, like almost $10,000 that we had to pay. And I don't want to have to pay that again. We're trying to buy a house, and like, let's just go to the hospital. Granted, I could just go to the hospital and have a natural birth, but financially, no. But financially, that's why I'm not going with my midwife again, just because we can't afford it. So it's just a smarter decision financially for us to just go straight for the hospital. And in the hospitals, they do, if you already had a C-section, they do kind of like say like, oh, you're probably gonna have a C-section anyway. So before my OB even said anything, I was like, look, I know kind of what you're gonna say, but let's just go through the process. Like, it's okay. I probably want to have the C-section anyway. So this is gonna be just like easy breezy, beautiful cover girl for you. But yeah, like I said, I'm just leaning that way. There's still like, I still would love to have a vaginal birth experience, but one of my friends said she pees every time she coughs, and she told me, she was just like, just get the C-section. You already had one. Just leave that part unscathed. Like, now, and that's another thing. Like, I already had the C-section, so I already have a scar. And then now, if I have a vaginal birth, then I'm not going to be like all together again back there, down there, even though they say like everything goes back. You don't know until you know if everything goes back, right? For some people, everything goes back, but not for everybody. So I don't want to be the not for everybody. So yeah, I kind of just want to leave that unscathed if it doesn't have to be bothered or messed with. My lady parts, just like, fine, just leave it. And then just cut the same scar. Just cut the same scar, make it look even better than the last doctor did, and then we're good to go, you know? So yeah, that's where we are. So yeah, and what was I gonna say? Here we go again. So yeah, so just, I don't want to mess up my lady parts. Not to say that they would be messed up, but they probably would be messed up. So just leave my stomach the way, you know, just cut the same part. I would still, like I said, I would still love to have this water birth experience, of having my baby and pulling the baby out, and like if we're at home or we're at the birth center and I could just love on my baby and, you know, have the delayed cord clamping and like, you know, have my baby like how God intended. But if God intends for me to have another C-section, then what am I gonna do, you know? And I had to realize, like, too, I am preparing, like my last pregnancy, I prepared so much for this one day when I had the rest of his life to really worry about him, you know? I'm like so worried about this one day and how it's gonna go, and how my my thought process was, like, during the time my thought process was, oh, okay, like whatever safest for baby, you know, the goal is the baby no matter how it gets here. But then when I think back, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I was like really wanting it for myself, you know, maybe I did just want it, you know, to say that I could do it, that my body just pushes babies out and I'm like the best at giving birth. And like, you know, I had to realize I'm not that great at giving birth, apparently. But it's okay. Like, I think now I've realized that it's okay, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with not being good at being pregnant, one, and giving birth. It's okay. Like, I'm not good at a lot of things. Like, I can't really draw. Like, I could be better at cooking. Like, I could. There's a lot of things that I'm not good at. Driving, parking, hey, that's me. I'm not good at it. So I just take myself back a little bit and say, like, hey, this isn't your strong suit. Maybe just plan a C-section and then you'll be good to go. Granted, planning the C-section is obviously not always guaranteed, but another pro about planning the C-section was that we would have childcare, and I know a day I need somebody to come over and watch Elijah. So luckily my brother lives here now, and our cousin was supposed to be coming to stay with us. Hopefully she will still come by the time the babies do. But yeah, so those are all the reasons why I'm leaning towards C-section. Again, I'm not 100% there. It's more like 90%. If somebody could send me some more pros of the vaginal birth, of why I should try it again. But I hope, since I've explained to you like why I'm leaning towards that way, it makes more sense. And you're like, okay, I can understand why she's like fearful, you know? And that's hard for me to say that I'm fearful of that, because I like to make decisions out of faith and not fear. But granted, you know, I don't want to go down the same road and then I have to go through this whole traumatic experience again. I'd rather, instead of focusing on the one day that my baby's going to be born, I'd rather focus on the 9 months, you know, the 9 months, and preparing my body and being an excellent host. I'm clearly really great at hosting because he did not want to leave my body. So I'm clearly good at that. So I'm going to try to do even better job at hosting my baby and not so much focus on the one day, but the 9 months and the rest of his life. You know what I mean? So I hope I didn't ramble too much. I get rambly. I work in customer service, and a lady got rude with me today and she said, "You're just rambling on." And I'm like, oh, I do that sometimes. But yeah, guys, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for understanding. Please comment below, like, what you think I should do. If you have any advice for me, if you had a vaginal birth and then had a C-section, or vice versa, had a C-section and then had a vaginal birth, or had 2 C-sections, let me know in the comments how you made your decision, how you make decisions going forward. And I would just love to chat with you guys. And yeah, I love you guys. Thanks for listening. And I will see you guys next week with a brand new episode. And I love you guys. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. See you next time.